Hey guys, this time I'm wrapping up a big project I've been working on for a long time now, drawing the entire Smash Ultimate roster. First, I want to say I had this idea back in June of this year. Now, I've drawn a lot of portraits in the past few years, so I thought, I'm sure I probably have most of the Smash roster finished, so let's just top that off and package it up as a cool social media post. Well, a few days later, I finally sat down and organized the portraits I did have, and here's how many I actually did have. I had 20. Only 20. Now, I knew there were 80 plus, but I thought for certain I'd have more than 20 whenever I started this, but in the end, I thought it would be good practice, so I just dove into it, and a few weeks later, I already had doubled that amount. Over the course of the next few months, I got a little more interested in drawing in my sketchbook and working with pen and pencil and working on my other digital artwork, so I made some pretty slow progress. Now, towards like mid-October, I already had 72 finished as I kind of worked it together piece by piece. So I only had 18 left to go according to the math that I did at the beginning of this. So I thought I'd record and comment on the remaining bits and pieces of this project. So here we go. So, with 18 characters left, I knew I wanted to record at least 10 of them just to have something to work with. So I chose some characters with a large variety of styles, some classic, some edgy, some anime, some strange, some iconic, some cute. Speaking of cute and iconic, here we're doing Isabelle from Animal Crossing. I don't have any real personal attachment to the Animal Crossing franchise in general, other than just the fact that I played it at the beginning of 2020 like everyone else did whenever we were stuck at home. And I think that I can say that about a lot of the characters I drew here in this series. I must admit that it sometimes felt like a slog trying to work through the gigantic pile of characters I don't really care about at all. I know along the way, the characters that were released for this game, there was a lot of like scolding of the developers whenever they released, oh, another anime character, another sword fighting character, another Fire Emblem character. I didn't really care that much about all the criticism people had to levy towards them, but as someone who isn't that much of a fan of anime on the whole, I definitely had the hardest time motivating myself to do these types of characters or just draw them in general, and that in large part has to do with my total lack of interest in their character designs or the games that they're from. I'm not saying that these games aren't great to some people, it's just not my style of game, but it definitely was a chore for me to try to draw these characters. With the plethora of the anime style characters that were on the roster, I think that played a role in the time it took for me to finish this project, just mentally motivating myself to continue. However, I knew that doing this style of character would push me out of my comfort zone aesthetically and approach-wise. I learned a few things from doing them. The things that I learned are a little too intuitive to describe here without being too in the weeds about it, but I do want to talk about why I decided to make myself draw 70 characters in just a matter of a few months to begin with. So let's do that. So why draw 70 characters in such a short time span? First, I think I should provide a little anecdote as an example of what type of role I found that these challenges play for me in the course of me doing several over many years of my life. So back in 2016, the art I shared on social media is much different than it is now. I found myself in a tight-knit little group of some really great artists who took me under their wing. At that time, I was drawing a lot of Dungeons and Dragons inspired artwork, just trying to find a niche that my work could be seen in some way. And I really liked and still like the world building, imagination, and character design that exists within this subgenre of art. When I was absorbed into this group, it was right after a drawing challenge that the group, without me being a part of it, had hosted. I decided I want to participate in this challenge as it was something that I hadn't really done before. There were two main things that happened as a result of me participating in this art challenge. The first of which it was I grew a ton in just 30 days and established a more consistent routine of drawing every day. And the second thing that happened was I realized how stressful it could be to place such a hard deadline on myself. So once I became a part of this group after this whole drawing challenge has happened and they saw my work and thought it was great, they invited me in more formally, and we hosted another 2 drawing challenges in the course of another year or two. Again, during these drawing challenges, I grew a ton as I tried different mediums and different approaches as I had before, or ones that I hadn't tried before, more than I could ever imagine, to be honest. But again, I stressed myself out about it, and getting everything done within the 30-day time window eventually led to me burning myself out, and sadly, I disappeared from social media for almost 2 years. I didn't make many, if any, appearances in a way that my artwork was visible. But that's a story for another video told in relation to a different medium of art making, but I still knew how much I could grow from participating in something like this. So sometime last year, I did a little 30-day pixel art challenge where I drew horror-adjacent monsters for 30 days. Horror is not my favorite genre, but I knew that it's a part of the kind of zeitgeist that exists within Halloween in relationship to it. So I thought there were some cool things about those characters, and I kind of want to touch base and kind of grow through some of the paranoia that I had around those characters whenever I was a kid. So in drawing those characters for those 30 days, I grew a lot, as expected. So this year, I wanted to accomplish the same growth in some manner whenever I started this project, Again, at the end of my own challenge last year, I felt that looming burnout and I didn't want to experience the same feeling as I approached this new project. So I didn't set a real timeline, I just handled it in chunks of motivation, trying to do the ones that I wanted to do the least when I was feeling the most motivated, and doing the ones that I wanted to do the most whenever I felt the least motivated. Again, I knew these were characters in a wide array of styles, some of which I'd never choose to do without the challenge, so it seemed like the perfect chance for me to grow my art knowledge while also expanding my scope of what the game's landscape has to offer. Did it make me try any new games that I hadn't played before? I think it didn't, but it did expose me to new artists, concept work, key art that I'd never seen before, which is exactly a reason that I'd want to do something like this. I also feel like I've come out the other end more willing to try things that I tried somewhere intermingled in this mess of 90 characters. Why draw 90 headshots when you've already drawn so many headshots? What is there to learn from doing a headshot over and over and over? I've asked myself the same question along the way. Am I drawing something just because it's recognizable and it might get a few more eyes on the work? I think this is part of the reason, but I think the truth is a little more elaborate and basic at the same time. First, these portraits are pretty easy for me at this point, and it lets me sit down and just doodle and turn my brain off for a bit and try to evaluate the artistic choices that other successful artists have made in the creation of iconic characters. I also find these portraits to be a fun little challenge. I use this pixel sizing in so many of my other works, and it's honestly become a bit of a joke to myself, but these are all 64 by 64 pixels. And there's something special to me about working at this size. You're in this really fun space where you can't add everything you want to add, but you also see all the details, you're trying to figure out how you want to add them, and really trying to understand what's important to the overall design. In turn, I think it really has helped build my strength in understanding good design. Am I saying I'm a good designer? Not necessarily. I'm just saying that these things that these little portraits teach me, or that I get to do with them, are a fun little game to play within themselves. It's like sitting down to play a round or two of Tetris before bed. It's a little puzzle of colored blocks. Also, making time to do these things lets me sit down and enjoy some other media that I enjoy on the side, which I normally wouldn't make the time for. Things like listening to specific video game based podcasts, revisiting some of my old favorite music, that kind of thing. It's time spent at the computer that I normally wouldn't spend. Of course, I can do this kind of thing when I'm making a pixel art animation or my own image, but those things take more thought, and music or a podcast is sometimes too much of a distraction when I'm trying to be hyper focused on something that has a lot more detail like that does. So I've used this as an avenue for making more time for the things that I wouldn't generally make time for, and has made me think more consciously about how I need to make more time for things like that. I think that in the past, when I was participating in challenges like this one, I fell into the trap of thinking that if I wasn't drawing, I wasn't making progress. What do I mean by that? Sure, if I'm not drawing, I'm not growing in my skill or execution and the work's not getting done. But if all I do is draw, then all my creative energy is sucked out of me, and the joy of making art quickly turns into just more work that I overly stress about and eventually burn out from. So I guess I mean over the years, I've realized how much progress is actually being made by taking a break, making time for other things that I care about, and doing those things too. It was nice to have those things coincide on this project. Even if I disliked having to draw a picture of Pyra and Mithra, I could at least have a no-clip video game documentary in a side window that made me feel like I was enjoying myself. No shade to Xenoblade, I'm just not a JRPG guy, but I love the no-clip video game documentaries. Another thing I've learned about these longer projects / tasks is that they're really a spot for self-discovery. I feel like I never start them trying to learn anything about myself, other than I'm just trying to get better at certain skills or techniques, but in the process of doing it all, I always learn more about myself as a person. I know it sounds a bit cringy in relation to drawing goofy cartoon characters that are fighting each other on a screen, that are from iconic video game, whatever series, but it's true. I always tend to forget the old cliche, it's about the journey, not the destination. Every time I do this, it rings true and the project is done, and the feeling is always fresh. Then I feel like by the time I am ready to start up a new one, I've worked myself into a knot of feeling like I need to learn something specific or acquire a specific skill, or feel like I'm not very good at something. And I'm really not searching for something buried within myself other than just I want to put in the time and effort to get better at drawing. But through doing these, I've learned over the years there's usually a launching point for a turn of the seasons within myself. It's a load of work, some of it's hard, some of it's fun, but in the end, I'm more excited about where my attention has been pointed internally than I am about the skills I've acquired from doing the work. I'm not sure how that relates to you, the viewer, but take from it what you will. I think that maybe this intense desire and anxiety to get better at a specific skill is really just your spirit, soul, whatever, begging for a little friction to start a fire of sorts. Like, I'm going to try to push this analogy a little further. I feel like it's the spark to burn the leaves after an eternal autumn of some kind. I don't think this feeling is specific to art either. The way we move our bodies is an expression, and we just need to get comfortable expressing ourselves in some new way. So maybe these things where we do these big projects in intense bursts of progress on these bigger tasks helps us burn through that awkward stage of learning that expression sooner. I don't really know. I think I'm getting a little deep with this, but it's funny how doofy and basic stuff unfolds into something more powerful. That's what I think makes creating art and any kind of art so special, is that you can really do something pretty weird and people will see some value in it, and there's usually people there who will fan out about it with you. So do I think that you should do a challenge like this? I think it depends on what you're searching for. You already heard me talk about the pros and cons of doing something large like this. In the past, I've tortured myself unnecessarily by placing hard deadlines, thinking that more people cared about this than I did. And I've also grown a tremendous amount by putting myself under this kind of intense timeline and pressure. But these projects are really just a double-edged sword. And for me, I found that if I don't fully commit to them before I start them, then I've just added to this giant drawer of stuff that I said I would do. And that's not really a great feeling. But by starting them, even a little bit now, and I would say that finishing them more than anything else, coming out the other side stronger, whether that's skill-wise, technique-wise, and internally, definitely is worth the annoyance. And I don't take myself as seriously as I used to, and I think that helps a lot in the process of tackling these kind of projects. And I don't do them every year. I have done them every year for the last couple years, but I don't do them every year, and I don't know if I'll do it next year. I don't know if I'll do it soon. I kind of am a little tired of doing portraits at the moment. I think I'm gonna hop into doing some more animation stuff, but I've learned a lot through doing them. It'll be nice to see the progress that I've made applied outside of doing these portraits, because I've been so zoned in on doing these 70 additional portraits to kind of round this series out that I haven't really seen my skills applied much to anything else other than just these portraits. I wish to say that I did see it on the progression whenever I did the video, and I'll post the link above. Whenever I did the progression every 2 years with that wizard drawing I had done, I think I saw a little bit of it there. But it'll be interesting to see what I acquired from this and how it's used in my own work when I'm not just drawing somebody else's stuff either. Alright, so we're wrapping up Banjo here, and if you've been paying attention to the time lapses throughout this, you're probably thinking that's all of them, minus the Mii Fighter, Gunner, and Swordsman. I should say that I thought it would be a bit lame to draw random Mii characters and random poses in the pictures that were in the game, so I replaced them with a few drawings of 3 other people. The people that I replaced them with are Masahiro Sakurai, the game director, designer, creator for the Smash series, Satoru Iwata, the former Nintendo CEO who shepherded Nintendo's creative nature over the years before his passing, and Shigeru Miyamoto, the creator of Super Mario. That all felt more fitting than the alternative, and I know what you're thinking, since you, the viewer, are so good at counting every character and know them all by heart, because you, unlike me, care so intensely about the roster being precise. We've got them all. They're all on the list. Well, you're wrong. You're so wrong. Because the Lord must rise from the shadows. We cannot forget the true hero of this series. Our boy, Waluigi, has to be included in this. So here at the end of this, I'm not talking over Waluigi, so we are going to play some music while this gentleman is being created. Alright folks, that's it. That's all she wrote. Waluigi is included. He's right where he should be, a part of the Smash roster. But yeah, thanks for sticking around. If you stuck around this long, I hope you appreciated my commentary and thoughts on this whole process. I know it's kind of long-winded. I hope you maybe felt like you learned something, or maybe you're going to try this, maybe you're not going to try this, maybe you can see the value in doing this kind of thing. Either way, if you like it, like the video. If you want to put a comment on it because you have something you want to say, then do that. If you like the channel, make sure you subscribe to it so you can see more stuff like this. That's all I got to say. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.